So as soon as the schedule came out and we looked at it, we said, "Oh my God, they have three games in 11 days against three really good teams. What the heck?" And I never, I never thought that much about it because it's a schedule. Everybody plays teams and stuff. But this has been, now I'm mad. What they did to the Steelers, and it's not, I mean, the Ravens and the Texans and the Chiefs, they also have to play three games in 11 days. But the Ravens, and I think another one or two other of those teams, they got a bye before all this hell happened. Not the
Yeah.
Steelers. In
Right.
addition to having this gauntlet, which we knew would be tough, almost everybody gets hurt. Just our luck.
Yeah. And they've done no favors. And this isn't you and I, just so everyone listening. It's not you and I are just having a bitch fest about it. It's just the reality of it. I mean, even after that last Steelers Ravens game, we had to turn around and get ready to go on the road to Cleveland on Thursday, and they got the entire weekend off and played Monday night. So yeah, I haven't been a fan of that. And I actually took a look at the collective bargaining agreement, and nobody in there said or agreed to play on Christmas Day. That's number one. Number two, and they sure as hell didn't say, "Oh yeah, let's play 3 games in 11 days." And I'm not trying to be, a wuss on this or something like that, but you know, a big reason that they don't have Pickens right now is because it's a ridiculous schedule. I mean, they're not going to rush him back because he's barely going to have time to recuperate between all this crap. I guess you and I talked about that. The Eagles game, they could have, and then rest in the next 2 games. I don't know what you want to do with it, but I mean, his absence has been far-reaching in their losses. And whatever you want to say about it, and you can say, well, yeah, well, the Chiefs are doing this and the Ravens are doing that, but it's kind of bringing out the worst in the Steelers right now, Joe. It really is. They've not looked good. I would have said if these would have been close games or would have lost one of them in overtime, but they gave up 61 points and almost 800 yards in defense in the last 2 games, and it's not been pretty. Russell Wilson looked uh, he looked bad. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, those turnovers on Saturday were detrimental to our loss there. You look like the Ravens wanted it more. They were set up for it more. And that's the other thing, Joe, about all these games. 2 of them are on the road, and 2 of the hardest
Mm-hmm.
places to play, arguably maybe 1 and 2 in the NFL, is
Right,
Baltimore and Philadelphia.
right,
And you got to go play them too. Like again, we said this before, it's not like they're going to play the Panthers and then the Cardinals or like the Titans. Some Joe Schmuck
right.
fans that barely fill out a stadium. You're going to hard, harsh, passionate, great fans in Baltimore and Philadelphia. So it's been a recipe for disaster. And we did say, look, they might go 0-3. We don't think they would. We thought they might go 1-2. Best case scenario, maybe 2-1. But here we are. Now you have the Chiefs coming in on Christmas Day, and there's a lot of things you can wish for. But the way they're playing right now, I think they're in trouble. And without George Pickens, they're in real trouble.
That's the other thing we said almost all year. Okay, what the heck's going on with the wide receivers? You have George Pickens and a bunch of crap. And if George Pickens goes out, you're screwed. Well, guess what? That's exactly what happened. They
Mm-hmm.
are screwed.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It couldn't have happened like the first 5 weeks. It had to happen during this stretch. The
exactly.
worst possible time for him to be out was now, and it happened. They are 8-1 when he goes for 50 yards or more in receiving. They're, I believe, either 0-3 or 1-2 without that. And yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there, including you and I, have been critical of him with some of the things he said, the way he's acted, things like that, and it's all warranted. But you also cannot dismiss how invaluable he is. He is their premier offensive player, and when you are losing, and when you don't have your premier offensive player, then you can ill afford to make the turnovers the Steelers did Saturday and still expect to win. You are not going to do that against the Baltimore Ravens. It killed us. That fumble and that pick six just were just death sentences.
I think the reason why Russell Wilson made that fumble and did that fumble and had that pick six is because he knew, and I think this is indicative of the whole team, even the defense. You can't just be your regular self. You can't just play within the system. Russell Wilson said, I basically need to put this team on my back. I need to do everything. I need to be Superman. And he almost pulled it off. He almost scored. I mean, that was an amazing play by whoever that Ravens guy was. I
Yeah,
mean, you looked at when Russell Wilson started running. I mean, you or I could have scored a touchdown from there. I mean, there was literally nobody in front of
right.
him. And then all of a sudden this guy comes out and hits him hard and knocks him out. I mean, that was an incredible play. In hindsight, you say, well, he should have slid, he should have done this. But man, and then the pick six. I mean, it just happens. It's just it's just something that happens all over the place. And the defense, my God, oh, I mean, just I don't know where to begin.
Nowhere.
I don't know
I
where to
mean,
begin.
it's
They just look. This is supposed to be the strength of the team. They're the weakness now.
they really are, and that's the frustration because I don't think we're ever going to know until after he's gone. But who the heck's calling the defensive plays? Is it Terrell Austin or is it Mike Tomlin? Because there's always been that back and forth room. And when Dick LeBeau was here, it was Dick LeBeau. But ever since Dick LeBeau left, we've always kind of had this shroud of mystery. Like some of the media guys will say, "Oh, I know for sure it's Mike Tomlin," and they'll say, "No, it's Terrell Austin," and whatever. I mean, maybe someday we'll find out. But whoever it is, you suck. Because I mean, it's the defensive backs, Joe. That's the one strength we thought for sure they would have this year, and they've not been good. I know Minka finally got an interception, which is about damn time. But Highsmith looked great in the first quarter, and then he kind of went away. TJ Watt, once again, put him on a milk carton, man. I don't know if he's injured. I don't know if we'll find that out after the season, but he is just
He was invisible.
invisible. Yeah.
Um,
And he has
Now
been for a while.
he did have that against the Eagles. He did go down with that ankle injury, and we weren't sure whether he was going to play. So, but he didn't even have an injury designation. But from what I understand, you don't tell him what to do. He decides whether he wants to play or not, injury be damned or whatever. Okay, fine, you're out there, but you suck because you're so injured and you're ineffective and you're not helping at all. So what the hell are you doing out there, dude?
Right. And the other thing too, and I kind of felt it was coming. I thought maybe we could overcome it, but Derrick Henry was due, and they gave him the damn ball, to quote Keyshawn Johnson, and he did a lot with it. 24 carries for 162 yards. He didn't get in the end zone, but they put up 220 yards rushing against us. They ran all over us, and Lamar Jackson was not one of the biggest contributors. He only had 20 yards rushing, but Justice Hill and Derrick Henry just killed us yesterday. The linebackers had no answer for it. And I get it. I mean, he's a big, large man. And in that temperature, that's a very difficult tackle, and he is very good, which goes back to what we all were saying. I couldn't believe he was on the sidelines, back in that game when we beat the Ravens. And, I think I'm sorry, but you can say whatever you want. I'm sure if we watch Hard Knocks this week, Harbaugh will say that had no influence. Bull crap. He was in that game. He had almost 30 carries. Give me a break. They realized they effed up. He played well, and we had no answer for him. And that's the thing, Joe, going forward, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, our defense is getting a little older too. You wonder if they got to start figuring out maybe some edge rushers or linebackers or whatever. Peyton, obviously is a good young. Wilson's probably someone to build on there. But man, nobody was there.
I was sick and tired of this notion of well, the Steelers beat them 8 of 9 times. Lamar Jackson doesn't know how to play against the Steelers or something like that. Okay, it is very impressive that you beat them 8 of 9 times, but most of those times Lamar Jackson wasn't even playing, either because of injury or
Mhm.
because they sat him because they're so good that they it was the end of the season. But whatever reason, the first time they played him, they stopped Derrick Henry and they stopped Lamar Jackson, and they barely won, and it was awesome, and that's great to win. But you think the Ravens said, "Hey, we were really dumb for not stuffing Derrick Henry down their throats. Maybe we should change that." You knew they were going to make adjustments, and the Steelers saw that Derrick Henry was running right down their throats, and they made no adjustments. They didn't change
None,
a thing. And like you
none.
said about what the hell is the defensive coordinator doing? What the hell is the defensive coordinator? What the hell is the defense doing? Why did they not change anything? Why didn't they? I don't know. Just change something. Adjust. I don't get it.
They didn't do anything because if you do look at it from a stat sheet, Lamar Jackson didn't look great. He only had 207 yards passing. In fact, Russell Wilson had more yards passing than he did, not by much, but he did. His QBR rating wasn't great, but he did throw 3 touchdowns in us in the red zone area, and that's another kill right there. Like, okay, you bend a little bit with Derrick Henry, and you kept them out of the end zone. They had no rushing touchdown, so that was good, but you let them run all the way down there, and then Lamar just had to sit there and throw 3 touchdowns, 2 to tight ends. Andrews couldn't have been more wide open, and again, I mean, it just was an ugly look all the way around. And I don't know, Joe. Are we sitting here saying, or do we sit here and say, well, that's part of the schedule, or did the Ravens just kick our ass? Um, I don't know. I don't know.
I think a little of both, but I, it wasn't the ass kicking. It wasn't as bad as an ass kicking as we think. And I say that because the Russell Wilson fumble was horrible. Um the
Right?
pick six that happens. But there were, I believe, 3 fumbles that the Steelers caused that all went to the Ravens.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
any of those go the Steelers' way, this game might have been different. I mean, this game was what, 17-17 in the third quarter. It's not like, I mean, it got away from him at the end, but I I I think let me just say this. If we have to play him a third time, kind of okay with it. I'd like to see what happens a third time. This is one of those things where, like, if they play like a best of 7 series, it would probably be like 4 games of 3 or
4 games
something
of
like that. I
three.
think
I
they're just
agree.
that even.
I think that's a great point. I think it would be 4 games of 3, and I do feel like if we got another shot at them, we have a good shot at beating them. And that's the other thing. So now on the line, the Steelers have to win out, which means they will have to beat Kansas City at home, which is a tall order because of a number of reasons. I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. God is on the Chiefs' side. The refs are on the Chiefs' side. Um, and I say that I'm not one of those guys, folks. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but um, this
I
year,
am saying it. It looked okay.
oh,
Those are some incredible coincidences.
I mean, just some of the calls. The guy from the 49ers, where like he got punched by the guy from the Chiefs and they threw him out of the game. I mean, it was like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
been insane. So, okay, so you got to figure out how to beat them somehow, which I don't know. Maybe it's Christmas Day. Maybe I don't know, Joe. They might be able to do it. Who knows? But then you have the Bengals sitting there too, and that's that Bengals team that no matter whether our defense was world beaters or sub or struggling, they're probably going to come in here and put 30 points up. They just have for what I think 7 games, 6 games they put up 30 points. Uh, maybe even more than that. And they've lost a lot of them. And that Bengals team could be fighting for a little bit of a wild card berth. They have a hell of a outside shot, but they're not eliminated yet. So, and it's in Cincinnati. So,
No,
it's a
it's in
tall.
Pittsburgh, I believe.
Oh, it's in Pittsburgh. I'm
Oh yeah.
sorry. Yes, you're right. It is. It is. I apologize. So, I don't know, Joe. It's a tall order, but they went out, and that might help. But right now, the way they're playing, I'm sure they might be going to be a wild card. I don't
It's
know.
going to be very interesting. Yeah, I mean the Steelers play on Wednesday, the Ravens play on Wednesday, but then the rest of the league plays on Saturday or Sunday or something
Of
like that.
course,
And of course, yeah. But yeah, the Bengals are still in it. If they're if they're going into the playoffs, depends on them winning in Pittsburgh. They're probably going to win in Pittsburgh. Um, they're probably going to say, "I dare you to put 44 up on us again," and I don't think the Steelers can do that again. So, yeah,
they're
yeah. So
sitting
I
at
mean,
7-8 right now.
yeah,
The Bengals are, and they're in competition with the Colts, who are also sitting at 7-8. The Dolphins, who are sitting at 7-8. The Chargers have The Chargers have the inside edge at 9-6, and the Broncos are 9-6. So again, the Bengals are in that position where you never want to be. They have to hope for some losses, and they've got to win out. So they have to win out, and they need the Chargers and the Broncos to lose a couple games for them to make it in, and the Dolphins. Yeah. So
I think it all depends on the Chargers and Broncos. I think the Chargers and the Broncos both have to lose their next two games, which
right,
I believe that the Bengals' next game is against the Broncos, so they can take care of that
right.
themselves.
So
Um,
and then my luck or my fear is we're going to get the Bengals will be eliminated. They're gonna come here and like, you know what? It's our last game together, Joe Burrow, and so let's just go out
let's
there and
screw the Steelers.
let's score 50 points.
Yeah,
Because we're never gonna be together, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So
yeah,
naturally they'll take it out on us. Um,
yeah.
and I don't know. It just feels like it's not like the end of the year where we started 11-0. I think all of us kind of thought it's a false 11-0. But we knew this part of the schedule, Joe, like you said at the top of the show, was going to be a bear, and can we make it through it, and what do we look like once we do get through it? And that's where we're at this point. We're 0-2. We'd be lucky to go 1-2. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not unheard of because that's the weird thing in Steeler lore. It's almost like we probably should win. It's just stupid. It's like, oh, they're gonna lose. It's the Chiefs. I just feel like this is one of those games the Steelers will figure out how to win. Mike Tomlin will figure out how to win. It could be the Bills coming in here. It could be, the Texans, whoever. And I think we'd find a way to win. So I don't know. I'm 50-50. I'm not gonna be surprised if we lose either.
Not that there's a whole lot of practice going on between Saturday
Yeah.
night and Wednesday, but the Steelers do have the advantage in that it's a home game, and the Chiefs have to travel.
Right.
So,
1
and
o'clock on Netflix. Which
1 o'clock on
Um,
Netflix.
my
Good
confidence
God.
on it being on Netflix is also, I'm sorry, I think it's a warranted concern because we all saw how things went with
The fight.
Iron Mike Tyson. It
Yeah.
didn't go well. It did not go well. And
Everybody's going to be watching it and they're going to crash it. And they said locally it's going to be on, I don't know, channel 2 or something like
is
that.
it
But
okay?
they're going to be getting
Okay.
off the Netflix feed. I think you better fire up the Steelers radio network there.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're gonna be having a fireside chat next to our radios, like in the 40s or something, to
Right.
figure out
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on in this
Exactly.
game. You're up, Rob King.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly what it might be. And the games, uh, God, they kind of stink, don't they? So it's Kansas City and the Steelers, and Baltimore at Houston.
Yeah.
Um, so all this complaining we're doing, if we're being fair, Houston's very good at home,
Yeah.
and it's a good Houston team. And it might be nice for them to knock off Baltimore. That would help us out a great deal. And then Thursday night, I don't know who in the hell would want to watch Seattle at Chicago. The Bears have
Ugh.
lost, what, 9 in a row now?
Ugh.
I mean,
Ugh.
yeah. I mean,
Why are we having? This is the future. This is the future. It's going to happen. There's going to be Monday night football, Tuesday night football,
Monday
Wednesday
Night
night football,
Football.
Thursday night football, Friday night football, Saturday night football. It's just going to happen. It's going to be every dang night.
Right. So, I'm sorry, the Bears and Seahawks are Thursday. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't know.
And yeah, and the Ravens have to travel to Houston. So
Yeah,
I
right. So, and that's you bring up a good point of traveling because I mean, I don't care what you say. I mean, you can say, well, these guys are paid; they don't care about Christmas like we do. You care about Christmas.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You do, you don't. I think Thanksgiving, Christmas, Lions are playing every year. The Cowboys, maybe it's a different thing. I don't know. Um, in the Lions and Cowboys, that's the thing. They do play every year, so they're used to playing
Right.
Thanksgiving
Right.
Day.
It's a tradition.
Um,
Yeah.
and plus, it's a Thursday, so you might be playing Thursday night football anyway. But to turn around and put these two games, even for the Ravens out there, listen to Ravens fans, I don't think it's fair for the Ravens and Texans as much as I don't think it's fair for the Steelers and Chiefs. It isn't, and we've said this before. And I thought I had the stat here somewhere, but that both the Steelers and Ravens, although this year was a little different, the Steelers and Ravens are horrific after playing one another because they play each other so tough. So that's not playing well into each of their psyches
Well, the
either.
Steelers and Ravens are horrific after playing each other. And for some reason, also the Eagles. Like everybody who plays the Eagles immediately loses afterwards.
Well, they hit you so hard.
Yeah.
They a couple of teams, and I even think I don't know who it was this year, but they said they've never been hit as hard as they were. Um, so yeah, the Eagles play tough and they hit hard. So yeah, yeah, that's what you're gonna get. Shout out to a little bit of a Kenny Pickett sighting. But
Oh
for all you
no.
Kenny Pickett fans, let me point out that the Eagles were rolling 21-7 and looking like they were going to beat the crap out of the Commanders until Jalen Hurts got hurt, and then Kenny came in, had a mediocre day, and they lost. So,
I happened to mention something about, you know what? If I just put a post that said Mike Tomlin, it would be like all hell breaks loose. If I put out a post that says Kenny Pickett, boom, people go crazy.
oh yeah,
All I said was if the Eagles lose this game because of Kenny Pickett, it would be funny. And people just so much hate over that.
oh yeah, they're so bitter
Oh
over
my
Kenny
goodness.
Pickett.
Guys, it's a cult. Come on. You're in a cult right now. Go outside. Go deprogram yourself. He's not that good. And he didn't play that bad, but he's not Jalen Hurts. And
No,
the Commanders were smart enough to say, "Oh, we got Kenny Pickett in here. Well, I guess we could stop Saquon Barkley now because we'll just wait for Kenny Pickett to beat us." There you
right?
go.
Saquon was off to almost 100 yards in the first half yesterday.
Right?
Until they realized, well, we can key on him because Kenny Pickett can't beat us, and they were right. So, um, and I thought I was funny. I was watching, I think it was First Take either yesterday morning or this morning. Uh, it would have been this morning, right? Today's Monday. I forget anymore with this break on. But anyway, um, and they were kind of debating on how the Steelers going to do if they get to what they're going to do, and they were saying, well, they're going to still win out. Plus, I think one of the guys, I think it may have been, oh come on, Joe, who was the quarterback that said there was a Steeler quarterback controversy and there wasn't one? Not Danny Cannell. Maybe it was Danny Cannell. I don't know.
Orlovsky.
Yes, thank you. So Dan Orlovsky said, "Well, don't count out the Steelers because they got Mike Tomlin." And the other guy goes, "Well, I wouldn't count on Mike Tomlin in the playoffs." It was like, oh, hell, that's right. I love it. You're right. You're right because if they don't win again this year, it's 8 years in a row of the world's greatest football coach that can't win a playoff game.
That's the other thing we've been saying is we gotta win a playoff game this year. We
Right.
gotta win one. And if we don't, and now it's looking like it's in jeopardy. And you know what? Even if they do host a game, I'm not that crazy about their chances against the Chargers or the Broncos. I could see either of them coming into Pittsburgh and winning. Or if the Steelers don't get that and have to go to Houston or something like that,
Or Denver.
or Baltimore or
And
something like that, I
yeah.
don't know. It's real iffy right now.
Well, and that's the thing, Joe. That's the whole thing with the Steelers. It's iffy. Like Christmas Day. I think it's iffy. They might beat the Chiefs. There's a couple reasons why they could. There's a couple reasons why they wouldn't. It's just not the same Steelers team. It's just not the same Steelers team that we're used to. It just doesn't have. Um, if they would have shut down Derrick Henry again yesterday in Baltimore, and they would have held the Ravens to like under 100 yards rushing, you could hang your hat on the fact like, hey, but the defense has been solid. Defense hasn't been solid. The offense is without its premier player, and really its only premier player. We go back and forth so much in the show about Najee Harris. Yeah, he's great. Should have extended him, maybe, but in these games where he should have stepped up and become the premier guy with Pickens being out or Pickett being out. I'm sorry, Pickens. He hasn't. He had 40. Actually, Jalen Warren had more yards rushing.
And more
Jalen
carries too.
more carries.
Is
Najee
Najee in
Harris.
the doghouse?
I don't know, but he's just been, and again, he'll do 1,000 yards from scrimmage, and you sit there like that's impressive, but like he's just not that guy that like Saquon or Derrick Henry or a lot of these guys. Yeah, and you see what James Conner did yesterday. I tweeted that out.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying that because it's a Pitt guy. Um, they should have never let James Conner go.
Exactly. They should have just kept him.
Yep.
When they didn't extend Najee for that 5th-year option, we were saying, what the hell is wrong with you? Why don't you want him? Now we see why. He is not good for this offense, and Jalen Warren is. When they do that stupid toss back 7 yards, they expect you to have enough speed to go to the edge or something. Jalen Warren can do that. Najee isn't, and I love Najee, but he's not. He needs to increase his speed. He's a power dude, and bro, you're not Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry
I
is a
mean,
freak. That's not you. You're not even dollar store Derrick Henry. And I love Najee because he tries so hard, but he's just not that guy. And it's like, okay, I'll fine, go next year because he's just not right for this offense.
I don't think so either. And I mean, you look at Joe Mixon, who's flourishing down there, and he's a bit older than Najee, and he's got 11 touchdowns. That's the other thing. If you look at the top rushing, first of all, Najee's 14th in the league in rushing. He should be a hell of a lot more there. Before Najee came along, I can't remember a time when a Steeler running back wasn't in the top 10 or 12. He's not been knocking on that door. Of all the running backs in the top 15, he has the fewest touchdowns. Well, he's tied with Aaron Jones. James Conner has 8 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. And that's the thing. Like Najee's been good, but he's not been what we thought he would be. And maybe he will be like, you've seen what happened with Josh Jacobs since he went to the Packers. He's lighting it up. Maybe he goes somewhere and he lights it up. But it's just not working here, Joe.
I wish he would. He just needs to be faster. He needs to not be the power dude. He likes to be the angry run dude, and he's really good at that. And maybe that will be good somewhere else, but it's just not it. It's good to part ways with him, but uh,
Yeah.
this hopefully all gets fixed when everyone is healthy. And from what we've hear, I don't know whether this is true or not, but almost everyone is supposed to be coming back for this game. Pickens was a full participant in practice. Justin Fields was, I believe Larry O was the only one that weren't was even Deshaun Elliott is coming back, thank God. Even is Joey Porter Jr. And Skoranek, who saw Ben Skoranek being like the second best wide receiver on this team. I mean, he was making catches, he was doing some really good things, and then he got hurt.
It's so bad. And I saw that the Houston Texans, was it today, Joe, picked up Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there saying, because my wife says to me, well, you keep saying, and I've heard you say to Joe, sometimes she's sitting in the other room, we're doing our podcast, or she's with an earshot. Not tonight, but she usually is. And she says, don't I hear you and Joe talk about the lack of receivers? And I said, yeah. She says, well, why wouldn't they bring him back? And I said, because he's so bad. The Texans didn't have him. Even though we're in what position we have, I don't want him. So congratulations, Houston, because you just got a guy who 3 teams in a row now, he's refused to go in at times. Us, He's done it at Carolina and did it I forget where he was last year at the end of the year. He doesn't want to go in. He's a quitter. He's a cancer of the team.
That,
So that I give
yeah.
Mike Tomlin kudos for, because I think a lot of coaches would cave and say, "Oh, let's bring him back. He knows the system. But he knows what a cancer he is."
And they desperately need him. And even then, yeah,
Yeah,
he didn't burn the bridge in Pittsburgh. He nuclear bombed it.
yeah.
And he did the same thing in Baltimore. And my only hope is he shows up in Houston and he's so mad at the Ravens that he has like the game of his life or something like that. I know that's not going to happen, but
No, because he didn't have the game of his life against us. You know, I mean, in
right.
fact, the game we were watching him because we were at that game, and we were watching him intently. And he came in the first half. He ran 3 plays, 2 plays were fades, and he ran the wrong fade route. You could tell that he did, because in the second route he ran, he hugged the sideline so close. It's a fade. You don't hug it that close. I mean, he doesn't even. It's like, dude, the Carolina Panthers didn't want you. Carolina Panthers could use everybody. You could take Art Monk out. They would take
Right.
Art Monk right
Right.
now. I mean, it's
How
yeah.
many times when
Good.
Deontay Johnson was here that the quarterback would throw the ball and it wasn't even close to Deontay Johnson? And we said the same thing as like, was that a miscommunication with the quarterback's fault or was that Deontay's fault? Well, now we know it was always Deontay's fault. The dude is just a mess, bro.
Right.
Bro,
Right.
there's only 32 teams and you pissed off 3 of them.
Yeah, it's like
You
if
only
your
got
wife
20
asks you to go
left,
get
man.
yeah, yeah. No, it's like if your wife asks you to go get milk at Giant Eagle and you go to Shop and Save instead. Don't come back to Shop and Save milk. You out of your
And
mind?
you get orange juice or something like
Right. No, it's just total. So yeah, so I mean that's the thing, Joe. I mean we don't have a rusher that's in the top 10. We receiving wise, even with Pickens, just bringing that up too. And we're at this part of the season where I think some of this stuff's relative.
we
He's
don't.
27th. He's 27th. He's
Yeah.
our best guy. I mean, you can start. Juwan Jennings from the 49ers is above him. Uh, Devontae Adams is having a better year than he is. Trey McBride, the tight end from Arizona. Zay Flowers, Jerry Jeudy. I don't know what the hell the Browns did to get Jerry Jeudy, but the Steelers should have done better, because Jerry
I
Jeudy,
think they got him for like a fifth round draft
yeah,
pick or something like
Jerry
like like
Jeudy
nothing.
is
He
a
would be
world
he
beater
would be amazing
with
here.
junk thrown to him. I mean, what's he going to be on his fourth quarterback or third quarterback this Sunday? Because I don't know who they're going back to now. The Browns are in such a mess. At least that's
Right,
worked for the
right.
Steelers. But yeah, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. from the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's just the people are saying the Steelers are frauds. I don't want to say the Steelers are frauds because they find a way to win and they've done it pretty well. But now when you're going up against the best of the best, the Eagles, the Ravens, we'll see what happens Wednesday against the Chiefs. You are going to see whether they're a pretender or a contender or not. Because
You know,
Joe, in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks when playoff time gets here, you got to beat some of these teams if you're going
exactly.
to advance.
Exactly. They're
And
good teams.
right now,
You,
I don't know.
this BS is like, well, there's injuries. Every single team is dealing with injuries. Like, well, the Steelers are a good team when everyone's healthy. Well, that's a big if, bro. It's supposed to be next man up. But you know what? When we had next man up for and I'm telling you, losing Deshaun Elliott was huge for that defense. It forced Minka to actually do something, when God forbid that, but it forced KZ in there. And then when Dante Jackson went out, it forced James Pierre in there. Um it's those it's just the drop off from the starter to the backup is huge. And like did you see what Patrick Queen was saying? He was just straight up pissed. He was just mad about people being out of position. We're in week 17 and
Yep,
you have people that are out of position?
that's
Guys,
that's
what are
coaching.
you doing in practice? What are you doing in training camp? You're supposed to work that stuff out. You're supposed to for sure as heck have it worked out by the end of the season.
Right. That's coaching. Um,
Yeah.
it's plain and simple. So, and that's the thing. I just don't I don't get it. Like, you look at the Bengals and like you feel like you can put your finger on it. Like you have Joe Burrow, who's the number one quarterback in the NFL in yards, in touchdowns, in he's second in passer rating. Um, and you just know he has a horrible defense. So the Bengals can say, "Hey, look, we'll try to keep this together, maybe. All we need to do is bring in a decent defense. We go out, we go crazy, we bring in a few free agents. The Steelers are kind of like this mumbled, jumbled. I don't know. And like last year, we had a fun podcast after the season ended because there's so much going on. I think we're going to be at that same point because Najee is out there, George Pickens is out there. They're bringing him back. What are they doing with the quarterback situation? They have a lot to figure out, and I feel like they still don't have an identity. What I was hoping for this year was they go out, they win so many games, win a playoff game, they have an identity so they can get better next year. I didn't think they were going to the Super Bowl this year. But we're kind of back into that quagmire of I'm not sure what to think about them.
And we've been in this quagmire for like 5 years now. Like, yeah, I mean, I have not even given one thought to the off season yet. It's going to be crazy. It's going, yeah, it's we'll have plenty to talk about. But yeah, it's like, I heard somebody say today, well, we're in a soft rebuild. Good Lord, how long is this rebuild taking? What is
Probably
it?
tired.
Rome had a shorter rebuild, bro. Come on. Like,
Right. Right.
you're right. We have to have an identity. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep going 9-8, 10-7. Maybe we make the playoffs, maybe we don't. And either way, we get eliminated in the first round. We gotta it's quicksand. We're stuck in quicksand. We gotta stop this either one way or the other. And you could say, okay, well, now we have our quarterback. Maybe. I don't know. Russ hasn't been looking so great these past couple of games. I don't know. I don't know. It's just the the time we've been all been discussing and waiting for is now here. And so far, so far through the gauntlet, it's not going great. So, and oh, by the way, you have the defending world champs who are coming in here, 14-1. Taylor Swift is going to show up. Who knows what's going to happen there? If there's
Is Taylor Swift really going to come to Pittsburgh? I don't know.
Yeah, I
That
don't,
was funny. I
I
don't
don't
really
know.
care,
I
but
don't know. I can't see her going out Permanis with Kelsey and getting a double or capicola and gag or something. I don't know, but
he'll get a battleship. Go to the Triangle
you know
Bar.
what? You know what? What's going to happen is they're going to play the game. The game is at 1 o'clock and it'll be over like at 4 o'clock or something like that. Taylor Swift is going to bring a jet, like a big helicopter, right in the middle of 50-yard line, pick up Travis Kelsey, and they'll go fly somewhere else for their Christmas celebration or something. Yeah, she ain't hanging around here. She ain't
No.
going down. She ain't going down Giant Eagle to get a gift card for her fuel perks for Travis.
Right. Yeah. Um,
So yeah,
a few weeks ago after that Browns game, I was thinking about this the other day. I was listening back to a few of our podcasts, and we talked about, and it was the Browns, but they put a good licking on the Browns and looked good doing it. And that's when we got to the doorstep of this gauntlet. And that's where we said, look, right now, could we see talking about them being in the mix with the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens and the Texans? Yes. But we wanted to see how it went these next 3 games before we really said, are they there? Providing, again, the schedule that it lays within. And that's the problem, Joe. It's like, even after this, we go 0-3. Am I ready to say we can't compete with them? No, because I do feel like we might be able to knock one of them off. So it's weird. It's a weird damn season. I don't know. I just do feel like maybe there is one point we may actually pull out a playoff win yet. I don't know how. You look a lot on what I just showed you on paper and what I said. It doesn't
I
look
think
like
it's
we should.
possible. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, we could. We could. I mean, they have beat Broncos, although when they did beat the Broncos, that was
Different team.
like Nick's was just a baby, and now he's
Yes.
much better.
Right.
When they beat the Chargers, that was without Herbert, so that's a completely different team. But still, they're not. They're good. They're not. They're incomplete. So I could see them beating the Chargers. I could see them maybe beating the Texans. They're not as good as last year. I could see them beating the Ravens. But when you go up against the Bills and the Chiefs, I think there's no chance in hell. They are just not on that level. I remember at one point we were talking about, like, oh, maybe the Steelers will get the number one seed or whatever. Like, they are not on that level. Look what the
No,
Eagles did to them. Look what the Ravens did to them. Now, those are the top tier teams.
I think,
Steelers are
yeah,
below.
I think the Bills would be like the Eagles. I think the Bills would dismantle us. I really do. I know they didn't play well yesterday, but they're allowed a one-off game, and the Patriots have been playing a little bit better, especially on defense. So, um, it is what it is. But yeah, the Eagles and the Bills, like that to me right now, and the Lions are kind of like the three teams that are the best teams, and I don't think they're on par with any three of those.
Yeah.
The Ravens, I think they could be because it's the Ravens. But you're right. If you get in a shootout, first of all, we need George Pickens if you're going to be in a shootout. Without him, we're not in a shootout, and it's just clearly evident. We don't have a Najee Harris who's busting over 120 yards a game and 2 touchdowns. He's barely getting by at 100 and not scoring much. He's only scored 5 all freaking year,
Hmm.
which I think is just a disgrace. And yeah, I just don't. I don't know. It's like the Browns last year. Remember, Browns? Oh, we got this great defense. We are banged up a little bit. Offense has been coming on strong, and what happens? They go down there and the Texans absolutely crush them. What was it like
Right.
55-30 or something like that? I think that would be us. I think we
Yeah.
have a good chance against the Ravens. I don't think the Broncos would blow us out. I think we'd hang with the Broncos pretty good. But any of those other teams you mentioned, gonna be tough.
Well, Houston scares the hell out of me because
Mm-hmm.
CJ Stroud is just he's just one of those
And Mixon's
very
been good.
smart quarterbacks that could just pick apart a defense, and
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what the Steelers don't need. They do so poorly against a smart quarterback, so that would be bad. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. The only benefit to this crazy gauntlet is they have a mini bye because their next game now would be what, in 11 days or something like that.
Right.
So you get a mini break that hopefully people get healthy. But yes, they need Pickens, but they need TJ Watt. Enough of this 50% TJ Watt crap. Bro, you're not doing anybody any good. They need for the Steelers to do anything, they need the dominant TJ Watt to wreck a game. Because if they don't
Yeah.
have that, it's almost like not having Pickens.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point. And they just haven't he hasn't been there this year to do that.
He
He
said
hasn't taken
sometimes.
over
Sometimes he
games.
has.
He has, and that's the thing, you're right. When he is, he has been a game changer. It's what he does. He not only sacks your quarterback, he strips them. We get the ball back and we score. I mean, he's such a game changer, and he just hasn't been that for the majority of the season. Like I said, I won't be surprised at the end of the season we don't find out he's been playing hurt, whatever it may have been. But he's a guy that I definitely love. I hope he retires a Steeler. I think he's been a great Steeler. I hope we have not seen the last of his, dominance. I'd love to see it come back, but it's just not there this year for whatever reason. So yeah, Joe, and that's the other thing. We were also, I think, the defensive backs were picking the ball off a little bit more earlier, and they haven't been doing that as much lately. So I don't know. Somebody, if you're gonna do this, and I think the Chiefs are beatable because in every game they played, they've been close. You need someone to step up defensively and get a couple turnovers, make those sacks, whatever it has to be. But somebody from the defense has to step up.
Honestly, the Chiefs are due. They're due for a bad game. You can't do this every single time. They say, like almost every single Chiefs game is like a one score game, and they say, well, statistically, you can't do something like that because all these even out or something. It's like, well, the Steelers are evidence that they're built for winning one score games. This year, the Chiefs are built for winning one score games, and the the myth about the Chiefs is that they're this great offense because of Mahomes. They're an okay offense. It's their defense. Chris Jones is almost like the Mahomes of the defense. That is a wicked defense. Who's their defensive coordinator?
Oh, they're
Spagnuolo.
Scanola in the third best defense in the NFL right now,
Yeah.
behind believe it or not, the 49ers and the Eagles. So, yeah, no, I definitely think that, and I just feel like, yeah, we just haven't had anybody that's in there that's being a game changer to kind of do what they need to do, and that's the difference between these Steeler teams and those Steeler teams from back in the Super Bowl years of this millennium, where you had plenty of guys stepping up and making plays, and yeah, we just don't have that right now. It's just not there. I keep going back to, like, even as a unit, the one loss I keep going back to is that Dallas Cowboys loss. And the reason I go back to that is we had them at home. We did enough to be up at the fourth quarter, and that's a game we should have walked off the field with a win. Instead, that defense could not get off the field. They could not stop a very beatable Dallas Cowboys team that's not very good. And they couldn't do it.
And why did they lose? Because of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is a smart quarterback that is above
Yep.
average at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and he just picked that defense apart. And that's what scares me is, and they said, well, he does so well against the blitz, so you can't really blitz him. It's like, well, at least try. Like they just did the
Yeah.
same thing over and over again, and same thing with this game. Like, well, Derrick Henry is killing us. What, we're gonna change anything? No, no, we'll just let him keep doing what he wants. Like, make an adjustment, man.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good point, and you're right about that. And I feel like when you talk about the adjustments too, you look at what the Dallas Cowboys do well, and they move Micah Parsons around a lot, and he's very hard because of that to defend against. And they still, for whatever reason, refuse to do that with T.J. Watt. He's just not
If
there.
TJ Watt's ankle is hurting him so much, move him to the other side where maybe it would hurt less. What
Right.
a like, yeah, yeah.
And
Like,
yeah, yeah,
move him around. They only did it like one or two games, and it was really effective.
it was. It was, but in fact, it's funny thing is we don't want to look like idiots because TJ Watt's still fourth in the league. He has almost 12 sacks. That's a great year. It
Yeah,
just feels like maybe we're spoiled, but it just feels like we're missing those TJ Watt games where he goes insane and he's got 2 or 3 sacks and a strip fumble.
but they
Um,
need those TJ Watt games.
yeah,
That's a sad thing. We can't have TJ Watt at 50%. We need him at that dominant level to win a game, and that's scary because it might not happen. He might be, like you said, he might be too hurt right now, and we're not going to get that anymore. He's just like a decoy at this point.
right. Because if you read down the line, so Trey Hendrickson's ranked 1. In sacks, he's 1. It's Hendrickson, Hunter from Houston, Miles Garrett's 3rd, and Watts at 4th with 11.5 sacks. If you do total tackles, Watts right in there with those 4. He actually has 58, and he has the most of those 4 sack leaders. So in his little triangle there, right, he's right in there sacks. He's leading in tackles. He's number 2 in tackles for loss. So, I mean,
He
he's
could
doing
win
what you
Defensive
want.
Player of the Year.
Yeah, he's doing what you want stat-wise, but it seems like it's just I don't know. Um, so yeah, it's just hard to put a finger on it, Joe. It's a quagmire. It's still the quagmire. I don't
It
know.
is. It is.
Not the funny one from Family Guy.
Right. Giggity, giggity. Yeah, we're just stuck. We're just stuck in quicksand, and we'll see.
Yeah, so
Um,
I don't know what to expect, Joe. I mean, I do wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you
you as
celebrate,
well. You
and
as well.
we'll obviously be watching some Steeler football that day. But I don't know. It's
Bef-
weird. I had
Before
it.
we go,
Yeah,
we have to remember this is the anniversary. This is December 23rd. It's a huge day. The Immaculate Reception. Every Steeler fan has the Jack Fleming call tattooed in their brain when he says,
Yeah.
and it's caught out of the air. Um,
And
Unbelievable.
did I see they've started to now do what they do for the Mazeroski home run? Because the Mazeroski home run in what it's September because the World Series ended at a decent time or first week
They
of
all
October.
gather,
Well,
and there's still a part of Forbes Field, the wall,
right.
that people gather and they play the radio broadcast.
And I think they've been starting to do that at the Franco Harris footprint where
Oh,
it was
wow.
at,
Yeah.
at the time, Three River Stadium. And it's funny how Pittsburgh really embraces that. But yeah, I mean, Franco, I really feel like you go to our dads, and I think the first, I think if you ask them who's their favorite Steeler, Franco's generally the first to come out of their mouth. Rocky's up there too, with especially some of the vets. My dad was a Vietnam vet too. But I think it's a very 1 and 2 between either Mean Joe Green or Franco. And that play there changed everything. And when ESPN, I think everybody got it right. And ESPN, the NFL Network, they both did the 100 greatest plays, and they both ranked that as number one. And as much to the Raiders fans and especially Phil Villapiano, much dismay, it's the greatest play in NFL history, arguably maybe the greatest sports play in history.
I didn't know this, but somebody just pointed this out today. Not only was that um, because at the time they were in Oakland, well, not only was that a huge loss for the Raiders, but I think also that weekend the 49ers were in the playoffs and they lost a heartbreaking loss too. So the Bay Area really was in a sad state that weekend. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, Franco was a rookie, and I'll never
Mhm.
forget what Mean Joe Green said. He said, like, we didn't win much, and then as soon as Franco showed up, we never stopped winning. It might be
I
that simple. That it might have just been Franco.
I can't remember if you and you're usually so good about this. I can't remember if you kind of called an emergency podcast when Franco died or not, but it seems to me that we did one.
We did, and
And
yeah,
I
and
worked with
unfo-
Franco a lot. I can't sit here and say I knew Franco pretty well. We did a lot of stuff for Penn State. And when he was asked about that, which he always was, he would always talk about how it was really Joe Paterno's influence that taught them, you go to the
go to the
ball.
ball.
Because a lot of times he'd say, I'd be running out there, especially as a passing play. I don't know what the hell to do. And, Joe Blow was like, you go to the ball, Frank, go to the ball. And he just, in his head, in his head, in his head. And that, that folks is coaching. Not here to, put Joe Paterno on a pedestal. I'm just saying that's great coaching. It instilled that upon Franco. And here we are, folks. And we have 4 of those 6 Super Bowl trophies that a big part of that is what he started.
Sadly, when we think about this time of year, we think about this wonderful anniversary, but we also think of the anniversary of that's when Franco passed away.
Yeah.
And they go hand in hand. The Immaculate Reception is Franco. And the other thing about that play is it is amazing that he was there to have the presence to scoop it up and run, but he still had to beat that guy that was coming at him and could easily have pushed him out of bounds or tackled him or whatever, and he just just swatted him away and ran in for the touchdown.
I was always amazed, and I always said this about him and Mel Blount in particular. I don't think people forget how big Franco's a big man. I mean, he was tall. I mean, even when he up to the day he passed, he was a tall guy, and I always felt like it looked like him and Mel could suit up and go play like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, but Franco, in my mind, and I have a picture. It's not at this desk; it's at my other one with me, my son, and Mean Joe. We met him at a couple different charity things too, and he's as kind as could be, really nice. But Franco was in my life, other than my own parents and some of my closest friends, was probably the kindest, gentlest person I've ever worked with, and just jovial and soft spoken and nice.
Always accommodating,
Yeah,
never told someone, oh, go to hell or whatever. It's like, no, anybody that wanted to talk to him, he was always friendly, he was always
right,
welcoming. At some point, sometimes people get sick of that stuff. It's like, not him. He would,
right.
anytime anybody wanted to talk to him, he was always friendly and wanted to talk.
And Phil Valapiano always has a real interesting take on that too. I mean, because he's always fun. He busts people's balls. But for a couple of years, they would invite him back, and him and Franco would both do
Yeah.
things about that. And I did one event with them, but he would say that but I'll tell you this, he goes, whether he caught it or not, he was when he had it, we were all like, shit, because the guy ran like a deer, and he said, at the same time I'm doing this, at the same time I'm watching this guy, and those legs are just striding, and I'm thinking, God help us, who's going to catch him? Phil had said that, because he just had that stride, that beautiful, graceful, like Prancer-esque, like, effortless almost run to him. If you play back and you watch that, and it's just, he has those big, long legs. And
Yeah.
yeah, but it changed the city, Joe. We might be somewhat in like, Vikings territory. I don't want to bemoan any other fan bases, but like, it just started off what
It
was great.
started, they didn't win the Super Bowl that year, but they
No,
went, that was the undefeated Miami season.
right. They went
Um,
up against the Dolphins, and
I could be wrong, but I think that game was here or some crazy, because at the time they didn't have, like, the number one seed you gets the home field advantage or whatever. It was like, I think Miami had to come here and they won on a fake punt or something like that. Some
yeah,
some some crazy
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
No, and and I always remember what Mean Joe says about that too. And Mean Joe always says, "I know this. We didn't win before Franco got here, and we didn't win too much after he left."
Yeah.
And that was that was Joe's ultimate. I think Joe would say my favorite Steeler was Franco Harris, Mean Joe Green, if you asked him.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
I love that anybody, most of the people associated with the Raiders are still mad about that. I remember when John
yep.
Madden was alive, they would ask, anytime they would ask him, he's like, I don't even want to talk about it. It's
No,
like
no, he didn't
years,
want to talk about it.
decades later, he's like, no, nope, nope, still mad.
He didn't want to talk about it, which kind of tells you a lot. And yeah, um, yeah, for sure. It,
Yeah.
it's uh, it's tough because again, he was a guy that embraced this city maybe more than there's quite a few. There's not as him and a lot of those '70s guys, not all of them, but most of them. And he was one of the pioneers or premier guys that embraced this city back as much as it embraced him.
I just wish before he goes, Terry Bradshaw comes to some kind of reconciliation with the city of Pittsburgh, because there's still bad blood, but Terry Bradshaw is such a big part of the Steelers in their history, and it just sucks that
Yeah,
he just he just I just wish that that relationship is repaired. And
I wish for it too. I don't know if it will because again, I think like there's a whole thing where he refused to do the interview for David Marinus's book. He was the only one, and David pointed that out in the interview. He's the only one that refused to do the interview because he's so whatever. He can't
yeah,
get past Chuck. So boo-hoo there. But then when he, like we talked, I think a few episodes ago, he did come back and he brought his daughters with him because he felt he wouldn't get his booed as much.
right,
We're
right.
all like, Harry, you weren't going to get booed. I don't know, what you were doing. And then of course he failed to show up for the 72 team this year. And
And
to
he
me,
didn't come for Rooney's
he didn't
funeral.
come for Rooney's funeral. And
That's a
it,
hard one.
I don't know if maybe we just are too young to remember, but maybe he had that ego too, and he's never gotten over it, and I don't know if he ever will.
I don't
Um,
know. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's
yeah,
because, I mean, it's a crazy thing that he was the number one overall pick, and he struggled for like 5 years. Could you imagine a quarterback drafted first round now struggling for 5 years? Now it's 5 games. If you struggle for 5 games, that's it. We're done with you. I mean, look at Bryce Young. He was almost thrown away.
right,
And he
right.
struggled for so long. And I think at some point he got hurt, and the home fans cheered, and I think he never got over that. And
Yeah,
I know that's a terrible thing, but
well, that just happened in Cleveland, right? With
it was
Winston, I
with
think.
Deshaun Watson, yeah.
Deshaun Watson, thank you. And yeah, I think that was it. And my dad would always say, he still does to this day, that he said he really thinks part of it was Terry Henry. He was a Notre Dame kid. He was a Catholic kid. and Pittsburgh was such a strong Catholic city. It still is for the most part at that time. But I mean, back then it was like uber strong.
Right.
So they loved Terry Hanratty, and he had some pretty good success at Notre Dame. And then you had this kid, Jefferson Street Joe Gilliam, and he could throw the ball from my house to your house. But he was Jameis Winston then too. He'd also throw 6 picks. So he fought back through all of that, and it was a running team at the time too.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether Terry looks at it like, well, I could have been, Montana like Numbers and Marino if you would have just let me throw more to Swanee and Stallworth. I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
would have thought, and here's where I doubt that. I would have thought because when he did come out that time, and I can't remember what it was back for, Joe, but when he did come back with his daughters and Heinz Field lost it, they
Yeah.
loved it. I
Yeah.
thought, see, we love you. We like, come here. We want to hug you.
Yeah.
We love you. And
That should have been it. It's like there
should
was
have been
no
it.
bad blood, man. We love you.
Because I guarantee you this, not that you're listening, Terry. When you do unfortunately meet your maker and you pass away, this city will mourn you like you've never seen. Just like they mourned Franco, just like they mourned Chuck and that old man, and just like they'll mourn any of those guys. You're going to be right there with them all. So
You and
I don't get
I
it.
are old enough to remember the Steelers in the 80s.
Mhm.
And you know, you had when Terry Bradshaw and the very first game I ever saw was in, I believe, 1983. He got hurt, and he got hurt early in the season. They were undefeated, and then Cliff Stout came in there and basically ruined the season because Cliff Stout was like horrible, and
Horrible.
Terry had to come back for the last game against the Jets in Shea Stadium to win the game so they could make it to the playoffs. But we remember when Terry retired and they tried to replace him with Cliff Stout, Mark Malone, David Woodley,
Yeah.
all this crap.
Yeah.
Um, you could go to any bar in Pittsburgh and say, if you said, I don't think that Terry Bradshaw was that good, you'd get beat up.
Oh, you get crushed.
You'd like, even if you said, yeah, that Joe Montana is pretty good. Yeah, Kent Stabler is pretty good. It's like, no. Terry Bradshaw was the man, and you do not speak ill of that man. He was the greatest quarterback ever, and don't you dare say a bad thing about him. This
Right.
town loved him, and they were mad at every quarterback. It's like, why can't you be like Terry Bradshaw? That's how much we loved him and revered him. And it wasn't until Ben Roethlisberger that we finally got over that and to say, finally had somebody that was as good as Terry Bradshaw.
Right. And even then, if I remember, and I can't remember what it was, I remember it kind of got heated. Like, I remember him making remarks about Big Ben. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of that was a little bit of ego driven too. Like,
Jealousy.
this city is loving Ben right now. Why don't they love me as much as Ben? Well, I'm going to
Right.
pick on the guy.
Right.
Like, and the part is like, bro, like, we do love you. And I guess you just are blinded to that, or you don't want to see it. You should have.
If they had like a retirement number, if they retired the number 12, this town would go crazy.
And I feel like he'd come back for that because it'd be retiring his number. But it's like this Chiefs game coming up. I'm not sure. It's 50-50 if he'd come back for that.
Right.
I
Right.
don't think the Steelers would do it unless he promised to come back or something.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like that's weird Steeler lore. I can't remember. Has anybody even worn number 12?
No.
Like no one's worn 32
I've
or 12
yeah,
or
they're unofficial retired numbers.
right.
Nobody's ever been 32. Nobody's ever been 12. I don't know why they let Muth have 88. To me, Lynn Swan is just as sacred, but I don't think anybody's been 75.
No.
Uh
Well,
oh,
his number is jersey is now with Ernie Staunter, one of the
okay.
official retired, right? So it's him and Ernie Staunter, I think. But I think you do run into like, you're going to run out of numbers. It's like the Yankees,
Right.
right? I mean, it's like, yeah, I don't think you can get 1 through 20. I mean, I think they're all gone. So I mean, these Steelers are
Can't
aware of
retire
that.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't retire all of them, but I feel like, you got Mean Joe. He started off. I feel like you could get away with Franco, Terry. Um, I think Franco and Terry, and I
Lambert,
think
maybe.
Lambert maybe. I guess my next one I'd probably go to would be either Ben or Troy. I
Yeah.
could see, those two all had that far-reaching effect like Franco and Terry did, and Yeah.
We got to start making some statues in this town. We need a
Yeah, we need more
statue.
statues. We do.
We need more statues. We need a statue of like there's that one of Terry, Franco, I think Rocky. They're all just kneeling, and it's like an I might have that somewhere, but there's one done. There should be one of like the Steel Curtain, like all the like Mean Joe and all those
Right, like
guys in the Steel
four
Curtain.
guys. Yeah, like Dwight White, and I would be all for that because I love the statues around PNC Park. They're well done. I mean, there's times where you have to wait in line to get a picture with Star Joel or Roberto. And I mean,
Yeah,
every Yinzer probably has 50 pictures of it already, but every time they go to a damn Pirates game, they still got to do it.
every time I still take them.
You
Yeah,
know, but the other thing about that too is, I mean, I've seen it 100 times, Joe. Like you'll see Cubs fans, you'll see Reds fans, and Cardinals fans, and Yankees fans getting pictures with Roberto, especially Roberto. Um, but yeah, I would be all for like, okay, we're gonna meet Joe Green over here, we're gonna have Franco here, we have Terry over here.
yeah.
I'd be all for that. I think that
Yeah,
would be
it's
cool.
let's get some
Yeah,
statues in that. You could 3D print them. Put it in a 3D printer. Somebody has a real nice 3D printer. But go let's go get this
yeah.
happening.
My cousin Rory in Blanox, he got one in that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, he's yeah, you got a statue guy?
yeah, I guess
I got a
that's your
good
guy.
statue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Hey,
but
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
good thing.
yeah.
That was great to bring up Franco.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Well, so Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone. Hope everybody has a nice thing and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. We will see. Merry Christmas, Pittsburgh.
See you.